Okay, hello, my friends. It is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, and there's some significant news today. Looks like Donald Trump just cut off all military aid to Ukraine. This is an amazingly large, huge, catastrophic kind of change in the war. We'll see how long that lasts. Maybe that's a step before signing a minerals agreement or something. I don't know. Maybe it's a something that he's playing 4D chess, but objectively, I just can't see it. So I can only report on what we can actually see, and I'll try to be as factual as possible as we go through this. I'm going to go through all the other events of the day, and then we'll get to that big story. So 1340 Russian casualties day over day. 3 tanks, 8 armored fighting vehicles, 45 artillery systems, and when you get down here, 101 vehicles and fuel tanks. Again, this number of the vehicles and fuel tanks has been very, very high over recent days, recent weeks. If we look at March is about where February was. The last 2 days have been higher. I don't know that there's enough data points to say that there's any trend line just because we only have 2 data points of going from 10 to 11 to 13 to 13. But we'll keep an eye on that. Andrew Perpetua says there are like 400 vehicle losses today, and I'm here to say it's too many for a single day. I've only done 166 of them, and I'm ready to go to sleep. It's out of control to have to do 400, to be honest. Well, yeah, that he's got a tough job. Okay, Ukraine repelled a large Shahed drone attack overnight. Out of 99 launched, 66 were shot down, and another 32 were suppressed by electronic warfare. Now, a Russian missile yesterday, it was reported that this was about the March 1st, and it was reported yesterday a Russian missile hit a Ukrainian military training base, reportedly killing 150 Ukrainian soldiers, 30 foreign instructors. Now, the 150 Ukrainian soldiers, they're massed together. What happened was, apparently, a Russian drone went overhead, a reconnaissance drone overhead. It was spotted, but they didn't disperse. They kept doing what they were doing, and so the Iskander missile came in shortly after the drone spotted them. So that's what was going on. Okay, Russian T-bombed Odessa with kamikaze drones last night. There's several fires. Odessa now is just in flames. Well, at the time where this was written, Putin wants peace. 3 districts are without heating and electricity. Okay, Russian strike on Kherson. A police officer and his colleague are killed, 5 civilians injured. Russians attacked with artillery, mortars, tanks, aircraft, drones. 17 objects were damaged, including apartment buildings, private houses, a kindergarten, post office, and cars. Yeah. And yet we're cutting off military aid to Ukraine to get them to the table. I don't know that we're using any kind of incentives for Russia to stop doing what they're doing. Okay. Russians hit one of the hospitals in my hometown. They showed how much they want peace. Okay, here on the Yepetria, man, I just slaughtered that highway around midday. A radar station from the S-300, S-400 air defense missile system was merrily burning. The 96 L6E radar is an altitude detector and costs tens of millions of dollars. So that's a step the right direction. Ukrainian attack drones successfully conducted one of the deepest strikes of the war tonight, hitting Russia's Ufa oil refinery. This was yesterday. Now, I didn't cover this because we had so much other news. I feel the pain that Andrew Perpetua was talking about with trying to keep up with tabulating these things, because I'm just trying to keep up with the news is hard. So this was yesterday, and it's over 1,300 kilometers from the front line. That's all the way over here. Now, I calculated, I was talking to Greg Terry and Johnny Pierce last night in a live stream, and I, I said, it's every 2.7 days, less than 3 days, that Ukraine in 2025, because I did the numbers about 2 weeks ago. In 2025, every 2.7 days or so, Russia's oil or oil refineries or those kind of things get hit by Ukrainians. Okay, so that's what happened last night. And then today, Syzran refinery and Chertkovo oil depot. Well, I'll talk about Chertkovo in just a moment. And then No, Novoshakhtinsk refinery were all hit last night. And I'll qualify about this one in just a moment. But let's look at this. So it's a third strike. This time on the Syzran oil refinery in the Samara region has been attacked. Here's another view of this. Syzran oil refinery is ablaze after yet another Ukrainian drone strike. It is 900 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Okay, so now we thought that there's a refinery here in the Rostov region, and it looks like that might have been hit, but it might not have been hit, and I'll qualify that in just a moment. There's also Ukrainian drone strikes that hit a pipeline and an industrial warehouse in Chertkovsky, Rostov region, not an oil depot as claimed earlier. The local governor has confirmed. Okay, so those are the strikes going back and forth. Let's turn our attention to the front line, the battlefield. Again, I'm just looking at Pokrovsk, and if, over time, if we just keep looking at Pokrovsk, which the Russians really want, we can kind of see the intensity of the assaults on the battlefield. So Pokrovsk direction only 19 times. Generally, it's in the 30s, and at its height, it was in the 60s and 70 attacks in any given day. Ukrainian forces recently advanced near Pokrovsk, and Russian forces recently advanced near Velika Novosilka and in the Kursk Oblast. So usually you'll see something like Ukrainian forces, advance here and here, and Russian forces advance here, 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 and here. But the intensity has been lowered on the battlefield. Okay, now here's the big story, the one that you've been waiting for. And by the way, if you're still watching at this point, as I'm talking about what's going on here, please consider hitting the like button because it helps this spread. I was talking to somebody last night who was telling me about, I said, well, what do you think about this? And he said, well, there's been this dearth of information in the media, so I don't really have much to go by, right? UA-tubers are about all that we have in video form in projecting these stories. So if you could hit the like, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Trump suspends all military aid to Ukraine, pressuring Zelenskyy on peace talks. What? He just suspended all military aid to Ukraine, even the stuff that the Biden era Congress passed and Biden signed and Biden was sending that has yet to get there has been suspended. Okay, the U.S. president halted all military aid to Ukraine, including weapons in transit. So if it's not already in Ukraine, it's not getting there. Okay, even RT is echoing this. Breaking, U.S. has stopped all military aid to Ukraine, according to Bloomberg. Okay, Michael McFaul, former ambassador to Russia, says the only way to get a real peace deal would be to convince Putin that he cannot conquer any more territory. That would entail the U.S. and our European partners giving Ukraine more weapons to create a stalemate on the battlefield. Trump, however, has signaled the opposite. Yeah, this is bizarre. Here, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says President Trump is the only leader in the world right now who even has a chance at bringing an enduring and lasting end to the war in Ukraine. Of course, McFaul asked, by disarming our democratic partner? Give me a break. Only a stalemate on the battlefield will create permissive conditions for a just peace. By ending aid to Ukraine, you are doing the exact opposite. You are encouraging Putin to fight on. I think that's fair. Trump just cut off military aid to Ukraine that the U.S. Congress had already approved. Tragic. Trump delivers a stick to democratic Ukraine. Trump gives nothing but carrots for autocratic imperial Russia. He's right by that. So I was thinking about this. In fact, I was asking Greg and Johnny about this yesterday. What has Russia had to give up? I've heard nothing about what Russia's had to give up. So, yeah, okay. Institute for the Study of War. Cutting the current flow of aid to Ukraine would directly undermine President Trump's stated goal of achieving a sustainable peace in Ukraine. Yeah, so why is he doing it? It's kind of weird. Now, maybe he's thinking something I don't know that we can't see, but from on its face value, I just don't see it. Okay. A suspension of ongoing U.S. military assistance to Ukraine would encourage Russian President Vladimir Putin to continue to increase his demands and fuel his conviction that he can achieve total victory through war. A cessation of U.S. military assistance and monetary assistance aimed at strengthening Ukraine's defense industry could help tip the balance of the war and give Russia greater advantages on the battlefield in Ukraine, increasing the likelihood of Russian victory in Ukraine. So, I mean, I know some people are saying, well, why is he doing it? Because he wants Russia to win. We don't know that that's necessarily the case, but it certainly doesn't look like if you want X, you do Y. I mean, like, why would you do this if your stated goal is to bring peace and end the war in a sustainable way? Yeah, unless you're just trying to favor the Russians, it just, yeah, it looks bad. Okay, the Kremlin would likely intensify its military campaign and in Ukraine and attempt to exploit and delay or any delay or secession of U.S. military assistance to Ukraine, as the Kremlin did in spring 2024. So we're going to be watching these numbers carefully and the number of assaults that are going up on the battlefield if they do intensify. Okay, now, was it because of the Oval Office meeting last Friday? Julia Davis doesn't think so. Now, this is commentary, but yeah, I mean, it's worth showing you. Don't think for a second that aid to Ukraine was stopped because Zelenskyy didn't wear a suit or disputed Vance's stories that likely originated with Russia-funded bloggers. Trump was going to do this all along, and the Russians knew it. Quote, Trump is ours, unquote, remains their motto. Okay, so even before, now that's commentary, but let's see if that seems to fit the picture. Even before the complete pause of U.S. aid to Ukraine today, the number of U.S. supply flights delivering equipment for Ukraine appears to have steadily slowed over the past month. Average flights cratered over the last week, and you can see this. The blue lines are U.S. Air Force, the red lines are commercial. If you want to see that in a different way, this is all flights. Now, this is where Trump is elected, or not elected, where Trump is installed as president again. He gives he's sworn in on the 20th, and then it kind of slowly diminishes. Okay, here's another view of this with all flights as opposed to U.S. Air Force. Yeah, okay. Well, how are the Russians appearing, understanding what's going on here? Today's Russian papers predict a reconfiguration of the whole system of international relations, highlight a deep crisis in the Western camp, and suggest that European leaders are dreaming if they think that Russia will agree to their plan for a partial truce in Ukraine. Let's listen to this.
So news from America that the Trump administration is pausing aid to Ukraine will have come as no surprise to Izvestia. Its headline this morning, they're shutting shop. The US may completely halt military aid to Ukraine. But in contrast, the US-Russian relations, it's full speed ahead. The two sides have had 2 rounds of talks in Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Preparations for a Putin-Trump summit have reportedly been accelerated, and there are media reports that the White House has ordered the State Department and Treasury to come up with a list of sanctions that can be eased as part of talks with Russia on Ukraine.
That's pretty terrible. Sanctions eased on Russia while aid to Ukraine is being cut off. It's looking pretty bleak here at this point. We have a State of the Union speech or something tonight, and we'll see what Trump says, or maybe it amplifies this, maybe it reverses. I don't know, but this is not a good direction.
The main result of all of this may not only be the end of the conflict, but the reconfiguration of the whole system of international relations, where Europe, left without its American umbrella, will be forced to find a new balance in its relations with Russia, while Ukraine will have to accept a marginal role, its fate decided by other players.
Yeah, that's really what Russia's hoping for. Okay, in the meantime, we talk about Zelenskyy. Is he going to offer an apology? They're calling for him to step down. I saw this and I was like, wow, this is leadership. So he's asked, is there any communication with the U.S. administration after Friday? Zelenskyy says yes, but at my level, and he means his staff speaks to Trump's staff. And now they asked, have you considered resigning? Zelenskyy said, I will, in exchange of NATO membership. That's leadership, folks, right? I mean, yeah, that's what he needs, his NATO membership. He needs protection for his people. Imagine that you're Zelenskyy and you're responsible for your country and people are dying every day and you can't stop it. That's where he is. Okay, last thing, my friends, Darth Putin. I haven't even met Donald for negotiations and he's already given me everything I want. It does kind of feel like that, but we'll find out what's happening a little bit later with our 3 big stories. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.